We'll be looking at question 5. I haven't treated, I think we've gone through the first question 6, November 2015. We have gone through May 2016. Okay, I think it will be the third chapter 2 question. Okay, so question 5, November 2016 on ISA 250 still. Consideration of laws and regulations in an audit of financial statement. The question reads, in compliance with ISA 250, consideration of laws and regulations in an audit of financial statements, the auditor shall conduct the audit in a manner that gives him confidence that the client has met all legal requirements of the country in which it operates. As the audit partner in charge of APB Manufacturing PLC, you are required to A. Identify and clarify 6 steps that ISA 250 requires of you in ascertaining that the company complies with all applicable laws and regulations. 9 marks. B. State and explain 4 procedural actions you would take in the event that the company failed to comply in material aspects or material areas with applicable laws and regulations. 6 marks. All right, so we have a 15-mark question. So it's a question that provides general statements. It's a general statement, actually, not a scenario, emphasizing auditors' responsibility regarding compliance with laws and regulations. And I doubt if questions will come in this manner. But then, let's look at it. The auditor is the audit partner in charge of APB PLC, a manufacturing PLC. Okay, so it's a direct recall on the question and the auditor's responsibilities and procedures under ISA 250 for identifying non-compliance. So it's just a recall, and let's look at the solution now. You'll see that it's good we use it to read. The solution provides a comprehensive list of the key requirements of the standard ISA 250. So don't forget, the instruction states identify and clarify. So identify and clarify implies not just listing, but also briefly explaining each step. And the solution actually provides that very, very adequately. So I'll state that again. The instruction means or states identify and clarify. Identify and clarify. So take note of that. So looking at the solution, you'll see that that provides clarity and it's adequate. So in writing, focus on the auditor's proactive steps to identify non-compliance, which includes understanding the regulatory framework, of course, making inquiries, inspecting correspondence, and remaining alert throughout the audit to any issue that may arise. Also important, and very importantly, a documentation. Remember, if it is not documented, it is not done. And also obtaining management representations in writing. In writing, take note of that. So that should guide how what to write in such a scenario, and how we should write. Use for each of the steps. Provide, of course, use bullet points. Each of the steps provide a clear, concise, and provide a concise but comprehensive explanation. You see that in the solution. So the clarify command implies more than just a one-line statement. So it requires brief elaboration on what each steps entails or why it's performed. So you can see 4 lines, 3 lines. Okay, number 3 is 2 lines, number 4 just 1 line. Okay, 6, 5, 6, 7. All right, so it's not just short or listing. A bit of clarification should suffice. So we really need to know our ISAs. So the question is a prime example of directly testing specific knowledge of an ISA. So please try to memorize in your quest to understand the ISAs. They are much, and I understand. You need to memorize the key requirements and procedures of important ISAs like 250, 240, 570, 260, 315, 320, 700. It's very crucial. So know these key ISAs, memorize them. So the key command, don't forget, clarify, identify, then also structure your answers. Use clear headers with each part as you are numbering them with bullet points, like we've said, because it makes it easier for the examiner to mark and follow, and to even give you your marks very, very seamlessly. And your time management, allocate time proportionately for question, the 9-mark question A and the 6-mark question. Actually, there's no scenario link. So since the question does not provide a specific scenario now, beyond just the company name, so your answer should be general. But I doubt in this dispensation if you bring questions like this. So focus solely on the requirements of ISA 250. Do not invent scenario details, please. Don't invent your scenario. Just stick with the examiner's content and what he provides for you. Okay, so let me go to the marking key. Yes, I like to speak to the marking key. Okay, so half mark for each of the 6 points. So you see that the marking is half mark, 1.5 marks, implying that a good explanation and clarification of each step is expected, not just a bare listing. So the solution provides, gives us 7 points. The solution gives us 7 points, plethora of. So we have a range of where to choose from. And please, the general understanding of the framework of ISA 250 is foundational for identifying risk of non-compliance. So please, you need to be grounded in ISA 250. Then the sufficiency and appropriateness of evidence for direct effect laws. And that means focusing on laws with direct impact on financial statements. For example, tax laws, pension laws are very important. So be guided by this in providing your points for the solution. That's how the examiner has, or the solution provided to us in the Pathfinder has followed. So also inquiries of management is a key source of information. And then inspect correspondence with authorities, that is, provide external evidence by independent confirmation. This evidence for potential issues that could come up or you're skeptical about. Then be alert throughout the audit work to other procedures. So non-compliance can be uncovered by various means and as you go on with the engagement. So for example, analytical procedures and other confirmations. Then, like we said, written representations. Management's formal confirmation of disclosure must be in writing. And most importantly, documentation, which is essential for audit trail and compliance with ISA 230. Documentation, very important. So aim to reproduce at least 6 of these points, ensuring they elaborate briefly on what each step involves. So for example, for obtaining a general understanding, add this part of obtaining understanding of the entity and its environment, like the legal environment, based on ISA 315 is in the solution. So it adds depth and shows interconnected knowledge to those standards. That's why we need to really grasp these standards as we read. Very important. Okay, so I think those are my thoughts on the A aspect. Any questions, observations, contributions for the A aspect? Okay, if there's none, let's look at the B aspect. The B aspect states we should state and explain. The first one says identify and clarify. Second one, state and explain. 4 in parentheses, 4 procedural actions you should take. So it's specific 4. We should state it and we should explain it. You will take in the event that the company failed to comply in material areas to applicable laws and regulations. 6 marks. All right. So it's also a direct recall on the auditor's response to identified and suspected non-compliance, the same as per ISA 250. So let's see the solution as per ISA 250. So the B part. Okay, action by the auditor in the event of non-compliance or suspected non-compliance by client. Okay, so you see the solution lists crucial procedural actions covering understanding the act of non-compliance, then evaluating the impact of non-compliance, and also communication to those we charge with governance and reporting considerations for this. So what to write now? Focus on the auditor's proactive steps to identify non-compliance. So focus on the auditor's proactive steps to identify non-compliance. So it includes understanding the regulatory framework, making inquiries, inspecting correspondence, and remaining alert throughout the audit. So also important are documentation and obtaining management representation, like I've said earlier, and I'm reiterating. So for each of these, I'm not speaking to question. I'm not speaking to A part now. I beg your pardon. So focus on, for the B part, focus on the auditor's required responses after non-compliance or suspected non-compliance is identified. And it involves understanding the nature and impact, and discuss with management before the report on how they should resolve it, any issue of non-compliance. So for each of the 4 procedural steps that was stated, state the action clearly and also provide an explanation. Don't forget the command, state and explain. So a brief explanation of the purpose and the implication would suffice. So take note of that. And you need to know, we need to really know our ISAs. So it's important we take note of this as we are reading and add more intensity to our ISA studies and memorization at first to help us understand these ISAs. And for the B part, okay, I'm looking at the marking key now. 1.5 marks for 4 marks each, so 6 marks. So from the solution now, I noticed we need to understand the nature and circumstances, which is essential for assessing the impact of non-compliance. Then what are the effects on the financial statements? So quantify the quantitative and the qualitative impact. So for example, fines, penalties, going concern implications, then maybe restatements of the financial statements. Those are effects on the financial statements. Then also discuss with management, like we've spoken in the lectures, and if they are obstinate, you seek legal advice. So management's response is key, and also legal advice clarifies implications. Then consider the impact on the audit report if there is insufficient evidence. So if non-compliance can be confirmed or is not addressed, it may lead to limitation of scope or misstatement. Then look at also the impact of other audit areas. That means reassess risks, implications for internal control, and also management's integrity. Then you report non-compliance based on ISA 260 to those charged with governance. So the shareholders report based on ISA 705 and 706 if material, and also reporting to potential authorities if required by law, which is, yes, if management has refused to respond, you are required by law to report to authorities, and you need to override confidentiality in those areas. For example, maybe money laundering issues you found out and some other non-compliance. So ensure you select at least 4 distinct and significant procedural actions and provide a concise explanation for each, as demonstrated in you see the solution we just saw before this marking point. So consider how to report the non-compliance to those charged with governance, shareholders, to authorities, as we've looked at in the lectures, that is covering internal and external reporting obligations. Very important. Okay, I think it's a fairly easy question. So I'm looking at it in a way he will test it with a scenario, but he will bring the same question. He just bring a scenario to test this kind of questions. And 70% of the candidates attempted the question and it was poor. Wow. Okay, so that's it for that question. Any observations? Any question? Before we move to the tough one, I don't like this question, this IASB clarity project, but then it's an area I didn't know it to be examinable. But then anything is possible with ICAN. So any question on the last questions? We are quiet too. Seems like these questions are pepperish. Are they pepperish? I think they are. What do you guys think? Because you are extremely quiet. I hope we are not sleeping.
I'm not sleeping,
We're not
sir.
sleeping, no.
Just trying to understand.
Okay. I can see Richard. I'm sure Richard is.
My challenge is hard to, like you said, is he memorizing or cramming those IAS, and the ISAs?
ISAs.
It's just too much.
Yeah, they are too much because if I say cramming, you forget. So I'll say memorize. You may have to read it, write it, read it, write it, like that. But for somebody that is writing 5 papers, I'm sure he will not have time to give attention to AAA. It will be challenging, because for those maybe 2, 1, and they can have attention for AAA because it seems to be very, very broad, especially those standards. But then you find a way around it.
So if I get 50. There, this IASB clarity project, I think it's talking about the revised ISAs.
Yes, those ISAs that were revised and provided for clarity. They picked some, yes, they provided some in October 28, 2008 to clarify 1 or 2 things, some ambiguities like that. I didn't expect them to test it, and I noticed he tested it in about 2 diets. Yeah, so there are clarity projects that I feel that I'm telling you, he tested it too. So the examiner can bring anything. That's one thing with ICAN. He tested it May 2017 and May 2025. Your last diet, it was in your last diet now. The last exams.
Yes, I'm just seeing it here now.
He tested it. So that's ICAN for you. Expect anything. All right, so let's go through the question. May 2017, professional standards. That's the unit, professional standards, the IASB clarity project. So you are an audit manager of Lobito James & Co., a firm of chartered accountants. You are aware of some significant changes and new requirements in the revised ISAs as a result of IASB clarity project issued in October 2008 that are expected to impact on the following audit procedures. A, communication with those charged with governance, ISA 260. Materiality in planning and performing an audit, ISA 320. Audit considerations relating to an entity using a service organization, ISA 402. Evaluation of misstatements identified during an audit, ISA 450. External communication, ISA 505. Auditing accounting estimates, including fair value, accounting estimates and related disclosures, ISA 540. Related parties, ISA 550. You are required to explain the objectives of the IASB clarity project. Only 1 mark. Wow. 2, explain 2 new requirements in each of the revised ISAs listed above. 14 marks. Chai. Well, like I said, I don't like this question, but then, and if I were in this exam hall, I won't choose it. That's it. Okay, so it introduces the clarity ISB clarity project now and states the auditor as an audit manager, we are aware of its impact on several ISAs. And it's a direct recall question on the fundamental purpose of that clarity project. So Let me even see the solution. Okay. Well, it's clear. The solution is clear. It's clear and concise, even though it's accurate with what is in the study text. So the core aim of the Clarity project actually is to improve the clarity and consistency of the application of ISAs. And also the former ISQCs, which are now the ISQMs. The ISQMs have replaced the ISQCs. So the aim is to clarify. So like a single in writing, I think what I'll write and how I'll write is just a single direct and concise sentence or two is sufficient for 1 mark. So looking at his solution, I think that would suffice. So for 260, yeah, even if it's a bit detailed. So I think for the definition, it's just 1-2 lines to earn 1 mark. All right. Then for the marking guide is a 1 mark question. So I don't think I'll even write 2 lines. One straight sentence should do. And the objective of the I is just to provide clarity now to ISAs and currently the ISQMs that replace the ISQCs, and also the consistency of the application. So no further really elaboration is needed. Don't waste your time on a 1 mark question. I think it's the 14 marks now that matters for those that would attempt this question. So for the second part, in answering that 14 mark question, wow, it's quite elaborate. It's a detailed knowledge-based question requiring specific recall of the changes introduced by the Clarity project across 7 different ISAs. So each ISA requires 2 requirements to be explained. And if you look at the solution, for each ISAs, you need to demonstrate comprehensive knowledge. The marking guide, however, is a bit unusual because the marking guide, let me see the marking guide. I think the marking guide provided 2 marks each, wow, for the 7 points. So 2 marks each for the 7 points from across all the listed ISAs, which implies that a flexible approach rather than strictly 2 marks per ISA. Okay, so if I'll write, maybe I have no choice than to choose that question. The core aim of the Clarity project actually is to provide clarity, of course. Then in writing for the B part, for each of the 7 ISAs, I'll identify and briefly explain 2 new requirements, if I remember, or significant changes introduced as a result of the Clarity project. And they should be distinct and specific to those ISAs. Please use clear headers, like we said. For example, ISA 260 is a popular ISA I know, communication with those charged with governance. So under each heading, use bullet points to list them and explain the 2 requirements as much as you can remember. So there's a need to actually read everything in the study text now. There's nowhere that is not examinable. But the explanation should go beyond just stating the requirement and offer a little more context or detail, because it's a 14-mark question, given the prompt and the command that explain 2 new requirements. The examiner said that. So ensure you provide exactly 2 for each, even if the marking scheme later allows for flexibility. I'm sure maybe because of how tough the question seems or unexpected. I don't expect such questions from ICAN, but then anything is possible. So a deep understanding of ISA is important. From brief understanding, peripheral understanding from our memorization, then you go into deep understanding as you look at the interconnectedness with these standards. So precision is also important. For questions asking for new requirements, ensure you state the changes that were specifically introduced in the Clarity project Clarity project revisions, not just general principles that existed before. And also structure your answering is vital for readability, like I said, and I've always said, and ensuring all your points are identified by the examiner. So also your time management is key. So we have 14 marks for each 14 points. So 2 per ISAs times 7 ISAs means that roughly 1 mark per point. So be efficient with your explanations and be concise but clear. And what did the examiner's report state? The examiner report 20%. I know I won't. If I were in this exam, I won't choose this question. You can see performance was also poor. Okay, so the marking key also it's clear. The guidance for each of the ISA is like 260. ISA 260, communication with those charged with governance. I like it. You need to explain why acceptable accounting practices chosen by management might not be the most appropriate. So those are the new requirements. Then mandatory documentation for matter. So it's not oral now, it has to be documented. And also communicating significant difficulties encountered during the audit, like delays, availability of information and all that. And also communicating also significant matters discussed with management. So focus on why and also the how of communication, especially the shift towards more qualitative and documented aspects. Formerly, before 2008, the ambiguities behind whether it should be oral or physically documented was cleared. So focus on the why and how of communication for ISA 260. Then for ISA 320, materiality in planning and performing an audit, quite a challenging standard. The new requirements added the performance materiality, that is a lower amount issued for assessing risk and designing procedures. So there's an initial materiality stated, let's say 200 million, and as the work goes on, they could step it down to 150 or 100. So that performance materiality, which is the lower amount, and the requirement to revise materiality during the audit if new information emerges, suggests that a different threshold is appropriate. So those are the new updates in ISA 320, and the specific documentation requirements for materiality thresholds and any changes must be documented physically, and also guidance on the use of benchmarks for initial materiality settings. Is it 10% of revenue? Is it 20% of profit before or after tax? And all those guidance. So the key change is the introduction of performance materiality actually in this IASB Clarity project, and the dynamic nature of materiality assessment during the audit. So those are the key changes to ISA 320. Then for ISA 403, which is ISA 403, audit considerations related to an entity using a service organization. ISA 403. Just a minute, let me scroll to where the standard is. ISA 402, sorry. ISA 402. So the new requirements is more specific requirements for understanding how the entity uses service organization, including the nature of the services, materiality of transactions, the degree of interactions, and the controls of that service organization. So that's where the detailed procedures for issuing type 2 reports, which is service auditor reports. Type 2 reports are service auditor reports as audit evidence. So the issuance of it, and also evaluating the competence and independence of a service organization's auditor, and also the adequacy of his report at the new updates in ISA 402. So explicit requirements if the auditor or the user plans to test controls at the service organization or use another auditor for this are explicit requirements that were clarified. So we need to focus on the enhanced understanding required and the specific reliance on type 1, type 2 report. So type 1 reports are reports issued by the main organization, then type 2, the service organization auditors report. Okay, then ISA 450. Okay, evaluation of material misstatements identified during the audit. It's a new ISA from the Clarity Project, carved out on ISA 320, actually. It's a product or a secondary product of ISA 320 on materiality. So the requirement is to accumulate all identified misstatements, other than those that are trivial or the immaterial ones, but all identified misstatements, whether trivial or material or immaterial. And the requirement is to assess materiality before the evaluation of the effect of uncorrected statements on the financial statements. So the requirement is to determine whether uncorrected misstatements are material by considering both nature and size. And the specific documentation requires accumulated misstatements to be disclosed, the auditor's conclusion on the material uncorrected misstatements. So emphasis on accumulating, reassessing materiality, and evaluating quality or qualitative aspect of the misstatements is the issue in ISA 450 and the updates on this ISA. And external confirmations, ISA 505. External communications 505. It's a more detailed requirement for maintaining control over external communication requirements, and it's to provide, or the objective is to ensure reliability. So a more rigorous procedure for obtaining further evidence when doubts arise about the reliability of responses is what this ISA came to clarify. So stricter conditions that must be met for the appropriate use of negative confirmation was also updated. And we need to focus on the increased rigor and control over confirmation processes, make sure management is not aware, and stricter rules for any negative confirmation aside what management has provided is what the ISA on 505 external communication was updated. Yes, please.
When you say make sure management is not aware, because from my own understanding, standard confirmation has to do with an external confirmation is part of audit evidence, right? Yeah. And this has to do with auditor going far to maybe do a balance statement of account balance confirmation from the bank. Yeah. Maybe confirm vendors and debtors and all that. Yes. Now, are you saying is this standard not saying that when auditor is doing that, he should ensure from your statement? Are you saying that the auditor should ensure that the client is not aware that he's confirming those transactions?
Yes, initially. But when he gets, that's why you can see the statement negative confirmation. So if I'm confirming that inventory, okay, no, let me not use inventory. Maybe bank balance on the financial statement is 200 billion. So if I'm sending to the bank for confirmation, the management shouldn't know. So if I have 200 billion and management and the bank sends 100 billion, there's a significant dichotomy. So you call it management attention to it. But when sending to the bank for 200 billion confirmation, the management should not be aware.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So that's what the standard is saying. So when there's a negative confirmation, like the bank now responds to you that, oh, what we have as at this date you are asking is 100 billion, you now bring it to their attention, not to escalate to maybe authorities and say, we have caught them or they are liars. No. So you call the attention to it. Okay, this is what we confirmed. Yeah. So that's what it means by you know initially. Yes. You're welcome. Okay. So for ISA 540, auditing accounting estimates, including fair value, accounting estimates, and related disclosures. The new requirements have been updated by obtaining or saying that we need to obtain an understanding of how the management or how management identifies the need for making accounting estimate. Quite gray areas. It's a technical standard, but then we need to try to understand it. Also, it's updated in the area of reviewing the outcome of prior period estimates to assess reliability of the current period estimation process. So what is the result of the past and how it relates with what the estimation management is making in the present. Also evaluating estimation uncertainty and whether high uncertainty leads to significant risk was also updated and clarified. Then for significant risks, specific procedures like evaluating management's consideration for alternative assumptions, and also reviewing for management's bias, evaluating the adequacy of disclosures. Then which other one again for these estimates? Though key emphasis is on greater skepticism, a risk-based approach, and identifying potential management bias is what was updated in ISA 540. Then I think finally the related party. Okay, please, Richard. Sorry, I'm just seeing your hand. Please, Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. Yes, please. I can.
Okay. So from the last ISA that you just mentioned now, I just want to get a little clarity on that. And it's with regards to the auditors getting a confirmation from maybe third party, for instance, now the bank. So are we saying that the bank is allowed to divulge the customer's details to the auditors without the knowledge of the customer? Is there any law that guides that allows them to like divulge the third party, like when compared to this data privacy, whatever? Is there anything they are going to present to them to allow them disclose such information? And is it just any audit company that can do that can just request something? I know that regulatory bodies can do that, like EFCC and co, but auditors also having this power is something I've not heard of before. I don't know if you can just say something about that.
Yeah, fantastic question. So at the initial terms of engagement, the bankers of the auditors will be stated to them, and the letter will be written even before any confirmation start that these are our official auditors. So management has also will also mandate or will be mandated to confirm that these are our auditors. So most bankers, especially not even incoming auditors or new auditors that are appointed, are aware of the auditors of their client. So in a situation where they are not aware, which is very rare, they call the attention of the client that, okay, look at what your auditors, or they will just ask, are these our auditors? Because external confirmations are supposed to be anonymous and independent of management. So the bankers also know a way of saying, management, who are your auditors? They could ask in cases of new appointment. But most of the time, you have those cases very rare where your auditors are known to the bankers, and they know maybe this is the first year, second year, third year, and the fourth year or the fifth year the auditors are auditing that company. So most situations like that, the issues of confidentiality don't actually arise because they know. So for example, in my last place, we work with PwC, and they were our external auditors. Once they are confirming most of our external confirmations, they just go directly to the bank, and then the bank knows, PwC are our official auditors from inception. So it's actually not a challenge, but in areas of maybe change of auditors, maybe as a result of their tenure has lapsed, of course, an introduction based on the terms of reference engagements will be provided to the bankers before even the engagement starts. So I hope that suffices.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. So the last standard I think I was speaking to was ISA 550, related parties. Related parties, quite a tricky and standard that has actually caused a lot of crashes. So the new requirements have considered susceptibility to financial statements to fraud and error. And most fraud comes from this, actually from the top. Related party transactions are very predominant, and the understanding of controls over related party identification, accounting, disclosure, and approvals of significant outside normal course of activity transactions is very important. So this standard updated it. Disclosure is key, and also treating significant related party transactions outside the normal course of business as giving rise to significant risk was also updated, and specific procedures for undisclosed related party transactions, then obtaining sufficient appropriate evidence of management's assertion that related party transactions were on normal commercial terms was also updated. So generally, we need to focus on fraud risk, related party transactions. If you look at the solution, he even said major corporate scandals, Enron and WorldCom was these ISA related parties brought those companies down significantly. So fraud risk, control understanding, treating unusual related party transaction as significant risk are key. So our well-explained points of these ISAs, under exam conditions, you need to demonstrate detailed knowledge as expected at this our level. So they are interrelated with other questions and interwoven. So you still have to know the standard, not just because of the IASB question, but you have to try to understand the standards as much as possible. Okay, so that's a question I didn't really like, but then it's been presented, so you may have no choice, or you may be in a fix in choosing which questions are best for you. So I don't know. Try to read it and don't isolate any question or any area of the study text. Anything is examinable. Okay, so I appreciate the engagement. Any question on this question? Even though it was boring, I didn't like it. But then, any question or contribution? I think we have 4 minutes more. I don't think we'll be able to go to May 2018, which he even tested money laundering again. Wow. Question 7, May 2018 is money laundering. So I don't think we'll have time to go through this question now. We may have to. Okay, please, Richard, go ahead.
So, sir, is there a shortcut around all this? Like, I'm still stigmatized by the 10 over 100 I was given my last attempt. So, and now, I think I know why I got 10. So, is there a shortcut? Is there something that you feel can just work? You know, there's a lot of things to just learn, and it's all theory, and I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, when I failed AAA the second time, to ask myself, is there no shortcuts? This thing is becoming unbecoming. But then I found out there's none. Why did I find out there's none? Because if the examiner comes this way, the next diet will not come the other way. So the only way to mitigate the risk of getting surprised by very crazy questions in the hall is to just know everything. That's one challenge with the exam. There's no shortcut. That's just the answer to your question that I know of. Maybe other tutors that are better than me will know, but there's none. So you just need to practice. You need to read hard. You need to really put in the grind. You need to put in the work. So, but somebody can comment anyway. Maybe somebody has passed it on the call. Please give us your shortcut, because me, I don't know of none. I failed it twice, and the third time I got it because I had to work harder. So I also had my share of failures for the AAA paper. So that's my answer, my honest answer. Sincerely, there's none that I know of. You have to read everything. And thank you for bringing that question. Anybody wants to answer that, please, if you have any shortcut to help us with it. We're all learning, even though I'm not writing the exam, but I found it not funny too after failing it twice. It was embarrassing, but then it's part
when
of
lecturer does not have a shortcut, is it with that the student that has shortcut that have not passed it?
No, it's possible now. It's possible. There was a student that was on the call last night, and she just left. I can remember her name, Victoria. She just left the call, and I joined her after results came out. I followed her to DM. I was like, "What happened? I've never seen you speak or said anything. Blah blah blah. You just left the call after results, and you've been here all through midnight." She said, "Yes, sir. I passed the paper." I was like, "Wow, you passed AAA?" She said, "Yes." "How many papers did you write?" She said, 5. "And you passed everything?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Wow." I was tempted to say, "Okay, what was your secret?" She said, "Well, I'm still in the university." I said, "Oh, okay. No commitments, no work, no children, no family.
No family problem.
The brain is still hot." She was like, she's currently 300 level and she's a first class student. I was like, okay, I understand. She said they just came for the lectures, enjoy herself, and very, very brilliant lady. She was currently being poached by KPMG and PwC at 300 level because she just qualified. So me, I'm always looking for secrets, I'm looking for people to give us the shortcut that will help us pass the paper. And I appreciated her. Very young. I think she's under 20. She's just 21. So their brain is still boiling, not like us that office wahala will not even let you see road sometimes, you know. Okay, all right. Yeah, so I think it's 10 p.m. now. We've exhausted our time for the day. So let's try and put in the grind, please. There's no shortcut. In summary, put in the grind, read through, practice questions, go through the study text, and I believe we'll ace it in the end. All right. If there's no other contribution, I would like to say have a lovely night rest.